Andy, are you there?
I am here, Crispin. Morning, everybody. Thanks for putting on this this show of support for us. We really appreciate it.
Now, I just wanted to say before I ask you anything else, I just wanted to say that we asked people if they'd send any messages in for you, and I'll just read some of them out. I mean, there's so many messages for you from members of the Labour Party across the country. Well done for standing up with us against the Conservative Party, said David Davis. Catherine Liebersey says, excellent effort, Andy. Carmel Cadden says, well done, you're standing up to the Tory bullies. Hope it's the start of a peaceful revolution. Denise Clough, Andy, you're a legend. I wish more had the balls you did. Shirley Foy, always will support Andy Burnham. He is a man of his word and puts health of the British before lining the pockets of the greedy Tory tax havens. That's a long sentence. Well done, Andy. Right behind you on this. Michelle Dudley Lee, thank you, Andy. We need you now. You give us a voice and hope. We're all with you. And then, quite interestingly, Jason McClellan, when season 1 of a TV show finishes on a knife edge and the second season starts with an awesome new character who is going to shake up the plot, rattle the villains and take the show forward, that's Andy Burnham, that is. Everyone has been inspired by what you did by taking on the government when they gave such a low offer and tried to, like you say, play poker with people's lives in Manchester. What's happening at the moment?
Well, it's in some ways the calm after the storm a little, Crispin. People are just sort of taking stock of what's happened. Next week, we're going to come back strong with a massive community campaign around supporting people through all of this, and look out for details of that. But I just think the key point here is where this all started. They basically said that people who work in pubs, bookmakers, drive taxis, basically they're worth 2/3 of their wages compared to 4/5, which everybody else got earlier this year. And I think if people just remember that, I think that this wasn't our fight; it was everybody's fight always. And lockdown, I think, is a class issue because it hits the poorest hardest. And if you don't have that support, then seriously, people are going to struggle very badly this winter because anywhere could find themselves in tier 3. So in some ways, I guess the feeling this weekend is we did take a stand, but we didn't win on those issues yet. And we need to come back strong on those issues together and work with people across the country. And that's why this event is amazing this morning. Thank you so much, everybody, for your messages of solidarity and support, because this fight is not yet won and we'll need to win it together.
It does seem that there is, as you say, it's an attack on the north that you've said in some of your interviews, and like Merseyside as well, we had that before. Now South Yorkshire and Lancashire have already had tier 3 and they're not really supporting them. Some areas of the south have probably got very high rates of COVID, but they're not being asked to go under lockdown. Do you think that a national lockdown is preferable?
I do, obviously only if it's needed, but I think it's a much better way than doing it this way, which is punishing regional lockdowns. And I think, Crispin, I'm going to redefine it a little bit, not just as a north-south issue. And obviously we've been in the sort of firing line because of the number of cases in the north, but I think it's a class issue because the businesses that are being closed are concentrated often in the poorest communities. Wet-led pubs, that new phrase that we've all become accustomed with, there are more of them in the communities that are the less affluent communities. That is also the case with bookmakers. And people were saying that it's going to often close places that people kind of come together in, and they do come together in pubs. And places like Oldham, Rochdale, Bolton, Wigan have got more businesses being closed in tier 3 than, let's say, other parts of the city region that can put on those substantial meals that allow them to stay open. People necessarily can't afford substantial meals with their drink in other places. So make no mistake, this is a class issue and it's coming to everywhere as we go through this winter. And I just think we need to keep this fight going together to say, people who work in those places that are being shut, they too are worth 4/5 of their wages, at least.
Yeah, and another aspect of this is you're sort of showing up the Conservative government incompetence. You know, and there's a story in the Sunday Mirror today about your highlighting that it took 11 days to pass the calls about track and trace. So someone went somewhere, may have picked up a virus, and only found out 11 days after they were there that they may be carrying COVID-19. It just seems that's another aspect of this, that it's not just the government targeting the wrong things, but they're incompetent with their system. What's your solution, do you think, for the track and trace? How do you think that could be improved?
Well, they should have localised it, Crispin, at the start, working through the established public health teams. But instead of localising it, they centralised it and privatised it. I mean, in that moment there, the whole thing went off on the wrong track. And it's the difference, isn't it, between trying to have a conversation with people via a call centre or on someone's doorstep. I think we all know, don't we, which one will get a better result. They've thrown billions at it, haven't they? Absolute billions. And this is the thing, isn't it, which goes back to the debate I've just been in. It's amazing what they have found money for, isn't it, in this crisis, and what they haven't found money for. And I think it really shows their true colours. You know, the bit of the week that will live with me most, Crispin, about when I look back on it. On Wednesday, I sort of took a day off, if you like, and well, wasn't completely off, but I stepped back a bit and just tried to kind of, recover a little. And I was watching the debate on free school meals in Parliament. I was just I've been in touch with Marcus, and I was just sort of tuning into that debate and listening to some of the comments from the Tory backbenchers in that debate. Comments of a kind, honestly, I've not heard, I think, since the 80s, when you just heard Tory MPs going on about single mums or, you know, people on benefits. It was just a complete transportation for me right back to that era. And I think the pandemic is, I think, enabling people to see the country with different eyes. And we're kind of seeing these people now completely out of step with where the vast majority of people are. And we're seeing the sort of complete kind of the lie of levelling up, to be honest, that was told. So I think this is a really big moment for the party, really, and for people to take heart and to see how grassroots action is beginning to change things for the better and expose what's going on here.
And you left Westminster to become the mayor of Greater Manchester, well, to stand to become the mayor of Greater Manchester. What was your reason for thinking Westminster wasn't the centre of what you wanted to do anymore?
Oh God! I mean, I've been on a long journey down there, as you all know, and many of you will have watched it. And yeah, I kind of went in there as a sort of, be honest, quite ambitious, but also a Labour team player. So it was almost like sometimes the party right or wrong, and sometimes it was wrong a lot in that era. And you know, I kind of learned, I guess, from that experience. And my journey in Westminster was one of kind of understanding really how, I've said this before, but it's important to say it again, Westminster makes a fraud out of people because it makes you vote in ways that you don't sort of support or say things that you don't want to say. But that's what it does. And it kind of leaves you a little sort of, well, in the end, people end up quite lost, I think, when they spend a long time in Westminster, unless they're of the kind of MP Dennis Skinner or somebody like Dennis. You know, most lose themselves, I think, and I could feel it happening to me. But for me, the change moment came really when I got involved with the Hillsborough campaign, because that was a real moment for me to decide where I was really. You know, when I went to Anfield that day, I knew that whole place was right and the government I was in was wrong, and it was basically a moment where I had to decide what I was doing really, where I was going and what I was about. And it began a process really of sort of kind of falling deeply out of love with Westminster. You know, when I kind of used to hear what people would say about, when I was raising that issue, the comments that would come back from people, and, you know, not just civil servants, by the way, politicians as well, I really sort of kind of became quite adrift from Labour. And I mean that, you know, I feel quite remote in some ways from the party, certainly have done in recent, in those years and sometimes in more recent times. And I feel at least now, I mean, what I'm doing now is the real me, I guess, and that's what's kind of liberating about it. And I just think, you know, I would encourage everyone to embrace the whole, I know maybe people have misgivings about regional devolution, but I think it could totally transform the party when you get people freed up a little bit from those shackles of Westminster, able to go out and campaign in the way that we would want to campaign, mobilise networks of support from the grassroots upwards. I think there's a lot in it for the party, and I think, you know, maybe, I hope anyway, the time has come to really embrace it, because I think it will renew us in a way that we will never renew ourselves through Westminster, in my view.
I mean, do you think the Labour Party is a bit too centralised as well and focused on London, and maybe should be more devolved, the power in the party?
Definitely. I think, you know, I would have liked more support more quickly in the fight I've just been in, if I'm honest. And I do still think things are seen through London eyes. I've always, under every person that I've sort of served as leader, and I've tried to support them all in my way over the years. I mean, they've all led a London-centric party, every one of them. And that's what I mean about Labour kind of seeing devolution as a way of re-establishing the connection with communities in the north that have kind of forgotten what we're all about. I think when you can sort of, I think, connect in a different way when you're kind of building it from the bottom up, rather than when politics is always conducted through the top-down approach of Westminster.
And one other thing, I noticed that you said in an interview that you'd had personal attacks against you by the media during the week and whatever of discussions that when you were speaking against what the government was offering and trying to push for more. Is that something that you think is bad for politics as well? Does Westminster? You seem to imply that it had a hold over the media. The media works with Westminster and tries to bring down people who speak up against what this London-centric kind of political system.
I think that is such an important question, Crispin, because yes, and it was, bear in mind, it's not unique to this government. All governments have used that incestuous relationship with the press in different ways. It's what happens when you get one place that has got a concentration of the power and all of the money, and it wants someone like me to go on bended knee and just accept what might be given. And you know, obviously Sadiq has refused to do that in a similar way, and we've both been in a position where we've been personally attacked. I think that is the nature of the politics that we've got, where you have an over concentration of the money and power in one place, Westminster, and then you have this incestuous relationship with the lobby that just puts out their message. And yeah, this week, I mean, if I go back over the last fortnight, all kinds of stories have been appearing in the press. One didn't appear, but a journalist from a certain newspaper accessed the Instagram account of my daughter and was following her around university at Liverpool. And that didn't appear, but it was happening. And I think this is the way it works, isn't it? This is politics and the way it works in our country. If someone dares to speak up for something like the wages of people who work in pubs, you then can expect yourself to be attacked in a whole string of right-wing newspapers. A story on the front page of the Telegraph that I'd instructed the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police to take a softly approach and just go easy on people breaking COVID rules. Just a complete lie. He had to go public and say that obviously he's operationally independent, but actually I'd said no, we do need to have a firm line around you know, breaches of the regulations. Otherwise, you know, everyone will give up on them. So it's just, that's it, isn't it? And sometimes people don't see that side of politics, Crispin, do they? They don't associate the stories that they're seeing in the paper with the other argument that's going on over there. But that's how they work. That's Westminster at its worst. I'm not saying that it's about completely moving away from the Westminster system, but I would say Labour's cause should be. We used to sort of campaign to put people into Parliament, didn't we, through the women's right to vote and representation of working class people through the trade union movement. I think we should be now about taking power out of it and letting communities and places do much more for themselves. And I also think, personally, looking back now, it's time to get rid of the Westminster whip system. Let people advocate for their places unencumbered by the nonsense that goes on in the sort of the minds of party strategists. Just let people be advocates for the place that they were elected to represent. And I also think that will allow MPs to have a better standing with their communities. And of course, votes on a confidence vote or a budget vote, there'll be those occasions where you would need to whip. But more beyond that, I would say, just let people be advocates for their places, because in the end, that will help raise the esteem in which they as MPs are held, but also in which the parties are held, because it will be a better connection that they will have with their communities.
Well, I mean, I think what came across in that clip that I played at the beginning was your passion, the tension that you felt, it just came right across that you had gone through such a tough time, and that you were frustrated with this, and that's why I think people really have been so supportive of you, and why we've got your back here on this show, and why there's people who are sending all these messages. And I'd like to lighten the mood a little bit now. By bringing in Rowetta, who has famously sung with the Happy Mondays. I'm wondering if she might do a song now, but that might be asking too much. But anyway, no. Rowetta, have you got a message for Andy?
Yeah, I did sing a happy birthday to him at his birthday party, which was lovely. But I don't know about lightening the mood, because since March, I've not been able to earn money. We can't earn money. I'm not allowed to sing. I'm not allowed to perform. I'm in the live music industry, and the events industry is the same. People with small limited companies, we've been excluded. We can't earn anything. Some people have been furloughed, and that's about to stop on the 1st of November. How are we supposed to live? Honestly, everything I've earned for, and I've been homeless, and I've been a single parent. I've not milked the system. I've been in a battered wives' home. Everything I've worked for, I'm about to lose, and we're not getting any grants. If you've not got a property that you work in, you don't get a grant. And I've seen people doing their business is up and making money out of this that's going on now, and still carrying on as business as usual. But I can't see an end for this for me and people like me and people in the events industries or small limited companies. We just work really hard, and we're spending everything we've earned. We're spending because to live on, and it's not fair. And I think the accountant said, I can't even afford him anymore, but he said, I think I've got to live on 20% of something. I think £200 a month I'm supposed to live on, and then claim universal credit. I'll lose my house. I'll lose my mind. And if they're not careful, I'll lose my life, because I can't do it much more. We're walking around and having to pretend that everything's normal, and it's not. And yes, I'm a very smiley, happy person. I'm always online. I sing a lot at home, but I'm not allowed to sing out the door. So I've been in tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 since March. I can't go out and do what I do. People want me to sing whenever I go out. I want selfies and stuff like that. I can't do anything. I'm scared of going out because I'm scared. I've stuck by the rules, and I'm not getting anything. Are we going to get a grant of Manchester City Council, us people that have been excluded? Because otherwise we're not going to be able to live. Sorry. That wasn't lightening the mood, by the way.
I thought you'd be lightening the mood, but
no, that's Andy's birthday next year if we're allowed to have one.
But if we're not going to have a lightened mood, then I'll bring someone else in. Right. I'll bring someone else in who probably won't lighten the mood either. But at least we're all together in this. Not to coin a Tory.
Can I just ask Andy? Are we going to get any grants or anything? They're excluded because they're getting nothing. Can we apply for grants in any way? People in the events, live music industry, because people think we've got loads of money, but no, we've put money into properties, into our children, into our lives, and we're going to lose it all. You know, I'm starting to see, me and Bez were saying we might have to sell our cars. You see him on Gogglebox, well, that's all he can earn. Can't earn anything else. We're in a mess.
Do you want to come back in, Andy?
I hope so, Rowetta. It's amazing, anyway, the passion that you just spoke with, by the way. And
just being honest, because people think we're well off because we're napping. We lost all our gigs, you know.
There are so many people's stories there that are not being represented at the moment, aren't there? You know, and that's what is missing here. And I think that's why people responded last week or the last couple of weeks. I hope so, Rowetta. And the reason why I say I hope so is because the government, I think, are going to tie us up in all kinds of knots about what we can use the money for and what we can't. We always, our fight with them was, give us full flexibility. Let us decide who we need to help. So let us top up the wages of people so they get an 80% furlough. Let us help the self-employed that you're pulling support away from. Let us help those people who run companies but aren't well paid, who've been left with absolutely nothing. Let us help the freelancers. But that was part of the fight as well, right? It wasn't just the sort of level of support that we were arguing for. We were arguing for flexibility.
I know.
And we'll find out. But yes, I would love to be able to say to you today.
Thank you for everything though, Andy, anyway. But because at the end of the day, though, we're going to have to pay taxes to pay for everybody's grants, and we've got nothing. They're gonna come to the music industry where we do earn a lot of money when it all works, and that we're going to have to. I pay tax. I've never got off the system. I'm a single parent. I've never milked it. I've done everything right, and I've earned money as a single parent. Brought my kids up on my own, sent them to grammar school, and now I'm going to have to pay taxes for other people to do their pubs up. They're talking about hospitality all the time. They're not talking about the small limited companies or the people like me, because honestly, everyone thinks we've got money and we put on a front, but we haven't. We're losing it, and we're losing our minds.
Oh, you said it, honestly, you said it so powerfully and so well. And you've spoken for people who actually aren't able to be, well, they're not being heard, are they, in the media at the moment?
They're not. And people in the events industry, in weddings and stuff like that, they're losing everything.
Yeah.
I feel shocked. It's horrible.
Can I just bring in another person who's a creative from Manchester, who wanted to speak on the show? Smug Roberts, are you there?
Oh, hiya.
I'm here. Hi, Ro. You all right?
Hiya, yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's like I've not done a gig since March myself, you know, but unfortunately I've got family and like you said, most people, if you're on the telly once or you do a radio show, they think you're a millionaire. But I'm not knocking people for that, because there's a lot of people worse off than I am. You know what I mean? And then the other day, and like, you know, the school dinner thing and stuff like that. We've got a club in Moston called the Moston Miners, and it's a community centre. And there's some businessman who's doing okay. And we're putting the cinema on for him next week, and this is a positive thing. He's giving a load of money for 100 kids to watch the cinema next week. You know, in the centre. So there is that. The grassroots is brilliant. Everything's brilliant. But like you say, we just feel a bit lost. But on a lighter note, Ro, you know, when you watch the news and that red line comes underneath about what's coming up. You know, like you're watching the main news and it like flashes down saying, "Oh, this is happening. That's Andy's having a rant." You know, whatever and all that underneath. And I remember seeing it said on it, "Big job losses for peacocks." And I thought, oh my God, what's that peacock going to be like now? You know, the one in Eaton Park. I can just see all these peacocks getting jobs as drivers at Tesco's. But it was all like, but on a serious, I can't. You know what? I feel really upset seeing you, because I know you well enough to know how upset you are. And it's people like yourself that are stuck in the house playing my in-laws haven't been out since April or whatever, because they're scared of dying. No. And it's not, you can't make. I know Crispin has got me to lighten things up. And then I was thinking the other day, you know, oh, thank God we're not like the USA, you know, and Donald Trump and all that, because he don't give a shit, does he? You know what I mean? That's the thing with him. He just doesn't give a shit as long as he gets voted back in. Yeah, but that's what I'm just going to say. It's no different here, because Boris is exactly the same. It's not that long ago we were all sat there going, imagine this, right? Imagine this. Imagine if Trump gets in and Boris gets in, what a laugh that'll be. It's not a laugh. Not a laugh anymore.
Nightmare. It's a nightmare.
And you know another thing, Andy? This is the point where you've been a political person. I honest to God think, right, and this isn't funny, but I honest to God think that some of them Labour voters that voted Tory this time round, you know, in the North, I actually think they voted Jeremy out. I think it's like, there seems to be an understanding that the Tories have been in so long and it's all down to them. That's what I can't fathom out. And it's funny in my head, but I really honestly think people think that they got the Labour out and then Boris got a new start, and nothing that happened before that was his fault. But on a positive note, or not even a positive note, I had to move back in with my ex role, right?
God.
No. Can you imagine?
No.
I had to start fluffing pillars. I had to start I had to start shutting the door when I went for a wee.
Oh no, I would kill myself if that happened. No.
And I went back in, and my little lad's 12 now. It was 11 at the time of the lockdown, but that was something else. I mean, God bless her, she let me live there with him so that he wasn't worried about me. But I keep saying to me, "Daddy, going to move back in?" And I'm going, well, you know, we'll see how it goes. You know, maybe your nan wants to move in instead of me. But there are all those issues. I can see now and we don't get a voice. We don't get a voice over this way, because I call it the Peter Kay syndrome. When Peter got really, really famous and powerful, I'm pretty sure they all went, we don't want any more of them coming over the fence. Yeah. You know, and I feel like there's there's definitely we skirted around it a little bit because we're talking to people that understand us in the south, but there is a definite worry from us locked down here about the north-south divide, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, we do feel like it's getting worse. There's always been it, and like Andy was saying about the London-minded the London mindset that we have to contend with, and we want someone like you to go into there and start going. We want someone like yourself to go to the Parliament and start being and talking like you were then.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's what we need. We need you. In fact, what I'm saying, I'm going to vote for you. That'll give us so much to do. I mean, you will start the entertainers bit.
I'm going to become Rowetta's campaign manager for Mayor of Greater Manchester. I think that's
I'm telling Andy, there'll be no problems, Andy. Right? If we'll manage her. We'll get her out, and that's the kind of message that isn't, like you said, Andy. That's the kind of message that isn't getting put out in the press. It's, you know, like there's loads. I mean, I know loads of comics because that's my business, you know, stand up and that. And there's lads like a mate of mine, Mick Ferry, who's an established comic in Manchester. We were talking. He's going, you know, we're looking at other jobs now. But then I'm going, yeah, hang on a minute. There's a massive queue for them jobs that you think you can walk into.
Yeah.
I think just about. Can I jump in a bit, if you don't mind? But just to say, I think this could be a bit of a change moment, though, for the North. I do. I think we're actually quite lucky, because I don't want to, you know, I know Becky's on today, and she's a totally authentic voice for us. Angela Rayner, completely authentic voice of our, you know, Jim McMahon and another. And I just think we had an era, didn't we, of politicians parachuted into places, and I think that is changing. And I also think what could change, if the party carries on with authentic voices in Parliament, but giving us more ability to just do more for ourselves at a local level and support all the people that you and Rowetta are saying just haven't been supported, because they don't see them there, do they? They're so far away that they don't see those people who are just forgotten now, you know, everyone that Rowetta was talking about. That, for me, is that is a 21st century Labour Party that I want to be a part of, really, when it's about getting power, proper voices in Parliament, but then getting power out of it. So we never have to go on bended knee to London. Why do we have to do that? That's what I think we should be all about now. You know, rebuilding the party in this way. You know, we're in the 20th century. We campaign to get people into Parliament to make them make better decisions. The new campaign should be taking the power out of it and you know, putting it closer to all the people who are totally forgotten in the current climate.
Andy, I know you've got to go in a sec, so I just thought there's one person who did want to speak to you just before you go, very quickly, and this is light-hearted, promise.
Manchester's not lightening the mood, are we? We are famed for being a bit miserable at times.
We've got someone from Plymouth to try and lighten the mood, because they're not in lockdown. Plymouth, Suzy.
Hello. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I didn't think you were going to come to me.
Hi, Suzy.
I'm just sat here having a normal day. Hi, Andy. I just wanted to say that how much I appreciate you as a person, as a man. And I watched Loose Women the other day, and apparently everyone's burned their Johnny Mercer posters and got you up instead, because you are now the heartthrob. You know, just if you ever need to escape, we'll always let you in Plymouth. I've got a little shrine there for you. This is just, I'm so embarrassed. I didn't know I was going to be on camera. I'm just, I would have made an effort. Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. And Rowetta, I mean, I was going to be all funny in that, and then Rowetta made me cry. I just want to say solidarity to her, and how powerfully expressed. I would vote for Rowetta any day. And oh, Andy, you're twisting my melon, man. I need to go. Woo! I'm getting all hot. Yeah, take care, and big love to Manchester.
Thank you, Suzy. Thank you, Andy, for coming on. I know you've got to go off. You've probably got loads of things to do. It's really appreciate you coming on, and thank you again for all you're doing.
Just to say, Crispin, thanks so much for putting on this, as I say, this fantastic show of support. It's just what I needed today, and great to hear all the messages from around the country. And thanks, Suzy. I don't quite know what to say really, but yeah, 2020's thrown up some mad things, isn't it? And I think me being on Loose Women is definitely one of them. But there we are. Who would have thought? But the support means the world. And as I say, Crispin, please take forward this lockdown fight as everyone's fight. I'm not saying we shouldn't have them, I would prefer them to be national. But when you have regional lockdowns, shutting down industries that are often concentrated in the poorest communities, you know, this is a class issue. And when you're talking about giving people 2/3 of their wages, that is going to plunge many of them into real hardship before Christmas. So, you know, keep the fight going. So thanks so much for having us on. Thanks for the support, and onwards and upwards, everyone. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Andy.